Warning: this podcast features adult subject matter, adult language, and things not meant for children to hear. Viewer discretion is advised. You've been warned. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the I'm No Joe podcast, the show where every armchair quarterback can feel like an Eddie Bravo. All you got to do is believe. Once again, I've got one of my combat talk compatriots here. TJ, how goes it, brother?
Another lovely day in paradise.
Hell yes, hell yes. So
Good day for fights.
apologize to the people real quick. We initially had the normal roundtable group set up here. Some of us don't check our messages as often as others. So you get us to start with. We may get some more throughout the show. We may not. But either way, we're going to cover all the goodness that's going on this evening. So we have got two cards going on this evening, as kind of been the trend lately. I'm not saying it's done intentionally, but I'm definitely saying they're not working very hard to avoid it. We have a Bellator card this evening and a UFC card this evening. So before we get into either one of those, I just want to take one quick second because it has been a minute since I dropped one of these shows and quite a bit has happened. So I just want to take a quick second here and I want to get your opinion on something, TJ. And I'm pretty sure you know where we're going here. Chuck versus Tito 3 happened. Oh my God, was that way more of a dumpster fire than I think anyone could have predicted. So I'm pretty sure I know your thoughts, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Now that that's said and done and we've all seen it and cried a little bit on the inside, how do you feel about Chuck Liddell saying that he's going to still continue to keep fighting?
To be honest, I wish he wouldn't. Don't get me wrong. He's a gamer. He loves to fight. He did it for umpteen years. It's that time. His time to hang it up was when he hung it up. Not to come back and do it again. But overall, you know what? Man's got to do what a man's got to do. I get it. I'm not here to judge him.
Right.
But if it was me in his shoes, set them gloves down. Guess what? Out of those 3 fights you've had with Tito, you won 2 of them. So you're still on top there.
Yep.
And guess what? The only reason Tito beat you is because he's been more active and you were away from the sport so long.
Yep.
Guaranteed.
8 years off, and Tito literally never stopped. He had a fight 8 months ago that he looked pretty fucking dominant still in. He's been at it the whole time.
Yep. But, to be honest, hang it up. Chuck, love you, but hang it up.
I agree. And it's to me, it's one of those things that I understand. It's that thing that he did for so much of his life. It's the thing that he was fucking great at. He made his name off of it. He literally became a legend doing it. So I can definitely understand when Dana basically forced him to retire because he was in rough shape in his prime. He was starting to go downhill. And Dana asked him as a friend, stop doing this. And then to see him 8 years later when he's spent the last 8 years not in any kind of fighting condition. He's not, I'm not saying he went full dad bod, but he has not been in training and fighting condition for 8 years while he's doing movies and shit against Tito, who's been active the whole time. And it's like, I get it. It's in his blood. He's itching for it. But at this point, it's time to start doing what most other intelligent ex-fighters have started doing, and that's either pick up a commentating gig or open a gym. Or both. Fuck. Who's going to tell Chuck Liddell, no, you can't commentate this fight, or no, I don't want you to teach people how to fight in my gym? Sad times indeed. But that aside, let's get right into the nitty gritty here. So we will kick off our discussion this afternoon with Bellator's card number 213 this evening, the Hawaii show. So the first fight on the main card with that one, because we're not going to mess around with prelim talks here. We're going straight to meat and potatoes. First fight on the Bellator card this evening is the welterweight Grand Prix round 1 fight. The one, the only, Neiman Gracie himself versus Ed Ruth. Holy shit, there are fucking firework potentials for this match off the chart. This, in my opinion, is one of the most slept on matches that's going to be happening tonight on either card. There is nary a sight nor sound of hype for this particular match, and it's the next generation of Gracie versus Ed fucking Ruth, Mr. Put Your Ass on the Mat. this is one of those matchups. They're both coming in undefeated. Neiman's coming in at 8-0. Ed's coming in at 6-0. It's an insane clash of the Titans here. I don't think this one is going to make it to the end. This is one of those that it really depends on how game plan gets enacted, because if Ed comes out and just tries to put Neiman on the ground, it might not end so well for him. But at the same time, Neiman really doesn't have a lot to answer for Ed's striking, which is getting better and better every time you see him in the octagon. So I think for this one, I'm going to have to go with the Gracie. As much as I love Ed Ruth, I'm putting my chips on Team Gracie. What about you?
I'm in that same boat there. Somebody's going to sleep. It's just a matter of which way. Are you going to sleep via RNC, or are you getting KTFO if you're fucking Gracie? That's the only two ways it can go, but my money's on Gracie because you know what? I'm a big fan of the Gracie Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, period. To be honest, between them and 10th Planet, those are two top-notch schools there are out there. Doesn't matter, and it doesn't matter which lineage of Gracie, they're all teaching the same. They might teach it in a little bit different way, but it's all the same. Those guys, though, they know how to fight even when they can't keep up with someone else's striking.
Absolutely.
I mean, for example, not that it worked out well this last weekend here, but there's a reason why Brian Ortega made it as far as he did so quickly. That was because of the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. Now, you have a bloodline in there. Guess what? They started them out as toddlers. That's a whole different world.
Yeah, that dude was rolling with a pacifier in his mouth.
That's right. But my money's on Gracie on this one. Sorry, Mr. Ruth, but you're going to leave with the L this time. But you know what? As much as he's improved, that one L is not going to make or break that man. It's only going to help him.
I agree, because either way it comes down, they're both undefeated, so somebody's going home without that perfect record tonight. But I agree. Either way, whichever side of the column that L comes down on, it's not going to make or break that career. But boy, I'm betting that that's going to be a fucking exciting fight to kick off a main card.
Oh yeah, guaranteed.
And sticking with that Gracie tradition, the next fight on the fucking card, the one that I'm really excited about for this event, King Mo versus my man Liam McGeary. Now, everybody knows that King Mo used to be a legit bad motherfucker. Him and Rampage's fucking wars were, in my opinion, equal to, if not even greater in some aspects, to the Chuck and Tito rivalry. Those dudes fucking hated each other, and their wars were awesome to watch. But that ain't the King Mo that we've got tonight. That's not the King Mo that we've seen any time recently. And now especially, you've got Liam McGeary, a Team Henzo Gracie BJJ trainee, who is no fucking slouch in any sense of the imagination. And he's coming into this fight with clean lungs because he's no longer a smoker, so he's got that respiratory advantage. Wink, wink. I cannot, in my just slightly biased opinion, find any aspect of this fight where King Mo can take it. Granted, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt because he's got so much ingrained wrestling ability. I'm not putting it past him trying to take Liam down, maybe putting Liam on his back once or twice. But Liam's strong enough and he's versatile enough. There's no way he's going to fucking keep him down there. And I'm calling this Liam McGeary by either submission or KO, end of the second, possibly into the beginning of the third.
I like where your head's at there, because that's about how I feel. When you say in King Mo, you know he ran the tables for a long time. He did. But when's the last time that his name was brought up and people went, "Oh my God, King Mo"? It doesn't happen anymore.
Exactly.
He's not headlining. To be honest, he's in that downslope portion of his career by the looks of it, because once he got his block knocked off a couple of times, he hasn't came back the same. And that's a sad thing when you see a fantastic fighter like that happen, but he just doesn't have that. People don't respect him the way they did before because of how he's been manhandled now. At this point, you're just another fish in the barrel.
Well, and the sad thing about that as well is that King Mo's over at ATT right now. He's training with the fucking top team boys. So it's not like he doesn't have the camp that could get him back into fucking killer shape. In my opinion, from an outsider, it just looks to me like he's just taken too much fucking battle damage, and he's just got too many miles to get himself back up to that plateau that you have to be able to maintain to get yourself into championship contender status. And Liam McGeary, even though he might be coming off a couple of rocky fights, never hit that, losing a step in the ability or the style-wise point. It just looks like he had a couple game plans that didn't go right, but if you've been following his Instagram, you've been watching his fucking training videos, the man looks like he's got his shit on point, and he knows that he's not coming up against a slouch in King Mo, and he's prepared for it appropriately as far as outside appearances look.
Yeah, it's very true. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure King Mo was working his ass off, but like I said, that he's just worn. He's the old dog in this fight, in my opinion.
And it is kind of sad because, like we said, Mo used to be a dude who you said his name and you have to go, ooh, that's going to be interesting. But we're at a point now, he's almost become a gatekeeper, really.
Yeah.
It's not a gimme fight per se, but it's not anything that anyone looks at as like world ending if you're coming up against him either.
No, he reminds me of another fighter that right now he's fallen under that gatekeeper status. Fucking Donald Cowboy Cerrone. I love Donald.
Yep.
But he's in that weird middle part of his career where he can go either way, but it's kind of like he's there. He's got the skill set, but the same concept with King Mo here. He's in that weird middle part of the career. One of two things are going to happen. Either something phenomenal is going to happen and click in his head and start working again, or he's going to tail off. One of the two.
Yep. Well, and as a matter of fact, ironic that you mentioned our other favorite, Cerrone. They just announced this week he is officially booked. He is officially going back down to 155, fighting against one of the new up-and-comers at 155. So they're letting him go back to 55 after Dana said he didn't want him down there. But in exchange for letting him go back to 55, they're making him the fucking gatekeeper again. They're going to throw all the fucking new kids at him again. And it's like, Cowboy's legit at 170, dude. If he would stay at 170 and just put a couple more solid ass whippings together like he has been, that could be a great run. And he realistically might be able to make a fucking title shot. But 155 is just such a fucking killer's row in the UFC right now.
Well, and the weight cut for him to 155 is a hell of a jump. Like that, where he's sitting there at 170, that's for me, that's ideal weight for him.
Yeah, absolutely. If you watched his last couple of fights at 170, he looks fucking spectacular. What he did to Perry, dude, you're like, dude, fuck. There's so much Cowboy potential there. And now he's going to cut that hard back to 55 to fight with the fucking Sharks again. Boy, vey.
Yep.
But moving right along, the co-main event, the ironic as it may be, fight that we talked about before we started recording a little bit even, the poster for this event has gigantic pictures of a couple of faces, and it's ironic because it's the co-main event, not the main event faces that you see here, and that is because it is the Bellator debut of Lyoto Machida. Now, they're not giving him an easy entry, and you wouldn't expect it to, but in this situation, they're really throwing him to the meat grinder. They are putting him up against Rafael Carvalho, and that dude is a manhandler. Now, I'm not saying in any way, shape, or form that the Dragon ain't ready, because Lyoto Machida never comes unprepared for a battle. But he's another one of those in that same point in his career, in my opinion at least, that he's been to the top of the mountain. He was up there. He saw the pinnacle, but it's just for so long you hold that mileage and you take that damage to stay up there. And then when you start to slouch, it's a quick downhill slope. And unfortunately, in the UFC at least, Lyoto's downhill slope came pretty hardcore. While I am glad to see that Bellator snatched him up as soon as he went free agent and they're going to give him a shot to get his name right out there, I just don't think he's got enough left in the tank to take out somebody as young and as hungry and as dangerous as Carvalho is.
No, you're right on that. I wouldn't sleep on him on this fight. No, not by any means. He's still got the toolbox necessary to go in there and do some work. But like you said, look at the way he tailed out of the UFC. It was that first KO that he took. It was just a landslide from there. Got choked out standing up by
Yeah,
John Jones.
hard too.
Hard, like fucking sleeping hard. With a fucking guillotine. So I'll give him credit. He didn't fucking tap to that. That choke, I don't care who you are, that fucking hurts. You're crushing somebody's windpipe down.
Especially from the angle that he had it locked in on, there's almost no defense the way that he had it fucking cinched sideways and torqued, so he was bent and crooked.
Yep.
Like,
It was gnarly. But you know what? That man, he's a gamer. So if Carvalho thinks he's gonna go in there and walk all over him, that's not gonna be the case.
right, right,
He's
absolutely.
he's gonna get touched on more than one occasion. I will say that because it's hard to emulate what Machida does
Fuck yes, it is.
because of the style of fighter he is with his karate. It's not a traditional fucking stand up MMA guy that's gonna come either with a straight boxing. No, he's got a specific style that it's hard to emulate. Carvalho's gonna have a rough go of it. I think he's gonna come out on top, but he's gonna have a really rough go of it. Now, do I think Bellator is right for putting these two as the biggest fucking pitchers on here? Fuck no. What the fuck is wrong with you? You have a championship fight, which I know is coming up here in a second. We're going to talk about, but
Yep.
I don't give a shit who it is. That's if you're not the main fight on the card, you should be in the background, just like everybody else. Don't get me wrong. Yes, Lyoto Machida, former UFC champion. Respect due definitely to that man. He earned it. He made the pinnacle of the sport. He hit the highest peaks you can hit. But at this point, you're the co-main event. You need to be behind them. In fact, that main event should be here. I shouldn't even be seeing your face. I might see a little piece of you sticking out like that. That's it.
And to that point, that's actually a great example of one thing, aside from the many things that they do wrong. That's one thing that the UFC does a great example of, because if you look at the card for last weekend, there was two belts on the line. There was the women's 125 belt with Valentina and Joanna, which was a fucking spectacular fight. And then there was the men's 145 belt with Max and T-City. Now, what they did on the poster was they put Max and T-City with big faces right up front, but they put Joanna and Valentina right underneath them so that all the champions or potential champions were on the posters, but the main event, the thing that you're supposed to be drawn to the card for, was front and center, which these guys did that a little bit backwards, but I think I might have a theory as to why they did it this way. And this just could be the Eddie Bravo conspiracy theorist in me coming out here. But what I think is that with Bellator doing more and more international fights to try and build themselves as a world organization the way that the UFC has, trying to get themselves into different markets where, fighting in MMA in general is really not necessarily just embraced, but actually like renowned and pushed and considered, worthy of praise and attention. This is Brazilian champion versus Brazilian champion. So no matter which way this fight ends up, a popular, well-renowned Brazilian is going to be the hero, and he's going to ring the whole praise and try and get Bellator to come down to Brazil for an event, I think.
1 second, I'll be right back.
Gotcha, you're good. But with Bellator trying to build themselves more of an international presence, at least in my opinion, for what my 2 cents is worth, I think that this maneuver, by putting the two Brazilians that are well renowned already, especially with it being Machida's entry, his debut into Bellator, I feel like they're trying to use these two guys, at least on the poster's sake and the promotion's sake, to try and help build themselves as a little bit more of an international company, a little bit more of a well-rounded employee roster, whereas everybody knows UFC's got guys from everywhere and they can go everywhere. But with Bellator being such a newer company, my money, at least for what my little screw loose thing is going with here, thinks that this might be kind of a subtle ploy to help open that international market. But that being said, like we got into just a second ago here, the main event on the card, which I 100% agree with you, should have been the predominant pictures on the poster and wasn't. Ilima McFarlane versus ex-UFC almost women's champion Valerie Letourneau. Now, McFarlane is 8-0 and a dominant women's champion over in Bellator. She's a 10th planet freak. She's got her BJJ ability. She's got her striking. She's got some wrestling. Or for whatever reason, they just can't seem to get enough steam behind her to really get some momentum going. And she's dominant. She's not a little, demure fighter. She gets in there and she goes the fuck after it. This is one of those matches that Letourneau's not going to lay down. If you've ever seen a Valerie Letourneau fight, that girl gets in there and gets after it. And she's another one. She's got a hell of a toolbox, but I think this is going to be a situation where the champ comes in the champ and then the champ goes home the champ. Now, I don't think it's going to be an easy fight, but I think the 125 belt stays on the Hawaiian champion tonight.
Well, and you know what? For her sake, it better, especially because they're fighting in Hawaii. The crowd, look, this is let me throw a little football into this. This is like going to Seattle. Hawaii is its own 12th man when it comes to this. I know I lived in Hawaii for quite a few years. They support their own very heavily. If you've ever, I went to a couple of the, what they called Rumble on the Rocks, which is fucking MMA, just on a smaller card level. Those guys go nuts at those. When they have their own fighter in their own state fighting on bigger cards like this, shit's going to blow the fuck up. If she does not walk away with the W, it's going to be a sad day for her. Don't get me wrong. Her people are still going to be behind her, but you know what? This is the kind of card that she needs in order to get that steam behind her. If she goes in there, puts on a dominant performance, which definitely is capable, without a fucking doubt. However, it's no walk in the park with Letourneau. Old Valerie there, she's a seasoned fighter. I mean, look at her fucking record, for Christ's sake. She's 10-6. She's been in there with some of the best that have fought at that weight class, period. And she goes in. She does not quit. She's definitely another one of those gamers where she'll get in there. I don't think she's got a big enough toolbox to deal with this right now. And maybe I take that back. She does have the toolbox. However, I think that because of the amount of seasoned that she is, she's not going to be able to hang.
I can definitely agree with that because,
to be honest, she's another one of those fighters where I see is kind of in that midpoint in the career where it can go either way. But I mean, she's been at it for quite a few years now. Whereas McFarlane, she's still relatively new into her career. I mean, a solid 8-0. She's no slouch by any means.
Right.
But she's still fresh into her career.
Yeah, she literally has half the fights of Letourneau, and she's undefeated in those. So I definitely agree. It's a situation where Letourneau is not going to just roll over, but at the same time, I don't think the levels in her toolbox are quite up to par with what McFarlane's going to bring.
Yeah, and I would say everybody has a puncher's chance to knock someone out. When you're at the 125-pound division in a women's fight, that's not always the case because it's like watching any flyweight fight. You don't see a whole lot of knockouts in those. Not because they're not capable, but because of the size. It's hard to get enough force to knock somebody out at that weight class.
Yeah, 125 pounds of momentum is tough to get enough momentum with.
Now, if by chance there's a knockout on that fight, I will fucking eat my shoe. Because you know what? At that point, I'm wrong as two boys in the woods fucking. I'll leave it like that. But I just don't see Letourneau having the fucking, like you said, the skill level. She has the toolbox. But the difference in those tools, she's fucking bringing a knife to a gunfight.
Right. Well, and like you said, this is home field advantage for all intents and purposes. She's a Hawaiian fighting in Hawaii with other Hawaiians on the card backing her up. Like this, the home field advantage in this situation alone is going to be a boost from hell for McFarland to start with. So Letourneau's coming in walking uphill, but she's one of those that you've seen her walk through the flames, so she's got a decent chance. I can't see her taking out that champion tonight.
No, unfortunately not.
But that will wrap up our Bellator 213 this evening. That brings us on to the good stuff, so to speak, the Milwaukee card that, oh boy, has this one been promoting itself for the last couple of weeks. Now, the only real major change to this card that has happened in the last 48 hours, and that is Jessica Rose Clark was deemed medically unfit by the UFC staff and hospitalized due to performance issues, which her team has said the weight cut was going good. They didn't seem to think there was any problems, but the UFC did not seem to see it the same way, and they gave her the Max Holloway treatment. Sorry, chopped you right off. But in doing so, when they pulled that fight from the card, rather, they bumped one of the prelim fights up. So we'll start right there with the fight that got bumped up to from the prelims to the main card. It kind of reshaped the main card in itself, because with this coming in, now we've got a main card that ends with Iaquinta and Lee going for that rematch, that trying to settle the grudge. And now it's opening with a rematch in Jim fucking Miller versus Charles Oliveira, part 2. Now, the first fight, if anyone hasn't seen that first fight, I encourage you to go back and don't blink, because the action is nonstop. It's insanity. Both of these dudes are no slouch. That being said, I am 150% in the Team Miller camp here. Granted, he's 29-12, and the guy has got mileage. But with that mileage, Jim Miller has been steadily improving, gradually getting better, and it seems like he is at that peak where he is in his prime, and if he's going to make a run for it, now's the time to go. And you can see in his last couple fights, he is starting to put that pedal down, and he is really building some steam behind him. Now, granted, Oliveira just won himself some history in the UFC for, I believe it was the most submission finishes in UFC history in that division. The dude's not a slouch. I'm not going to say he's a slouch, but what I am going to say is that, in my opinion, this is another one of those matches like we were talking about where the toolboxes might be the same, number of tools, but the level here. Oliveira, I'll give it to him. He's got the BJJ level. But as far as the tenacity, the wrestling, and the striking, that's all Miller. And Miller's not that he doesn't have any jiu-jitsu. He's got decent defense, but I don't think Oliveira's offensive jiu-jitsu or his striking is going to be enough to keep Miller from beating his ass again.
I love Jim Miller. I do. I love Charles Oliveira. The cowboy there. Although Charles Oliveira, no offense, but in my opinion, there is only one cowboy, and that's Donald Cerrone.
Wrong one. Oliveira's the Bronx.
Oh, I'm looking at the wrong fucking. Goddamn.
That was last week, and that cowboy got his 29-stitch forehead ripped open and got blood painted across it.
Yeah, that's right. I'm fucking all over. Well, let me lose my shit here again. Let me try this again. This is why this is an armchair quarterback show, not a fucking other show. Exactly. I knew which fucking Oliveira I was talking about, except for I didn't. Let's try that again. Anyway, when it comes down to this one, you're right. Miller has been on a fucking just steady incline, and it hasn't been an explosive one, but it's been steady. I think right now is that time where, like you said, if he makes this fight lopsided, that's that real fucking push he needs up in order to get back into that title contention fight. I've always loved Jim Miller. He's by far one of the biggest fucking just all heart fucking gamers there is when it comes to fighting. It doesn't matter who he's fighting. He's going out there. He will put on a show every fucking time. Doesn't matter. Yeah, there's some times where he's gotten his clock clean. but he's always come back from it. He's not like some fighters where once they get their fucking clock cleaned, they don't come back the same. He's been coming back the same, only better, which is it's crazy. I mean, he had a bad run there for a while, a really bad run, and a lot of that, to be honest, I chalked that up to that whole puncher's chance thing because a lot of those times he was getting caught, but he's filled in some holes in his game, and it's really starting to turn around. And to be honest, I think he ends up winning this fight via probably. I think it's going to be It's probably going to be a knockout, probably second round.
Yeah, I'm 100% in agreement with you here. I think this one is Miller by KO round 2. Oliveira always has that chance, but I just don't think tonight it's going to be enough. I think tonight,
the catch with Charles Oliveira though is that his offensive jiu-jitsu game is fan-fucking-tastic.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
I mean, don't get me wrong. He's not like, if I'm going to compare him to another jiu-jitsu guy, I'm going to have to compare him to T-City. He's not on T-City's level, but he's fucking up there where he's fantastically stringing shit together to try to find the way to put somebody out, whether it's via choke or armbar or whatever the case may be. He's got a fantastic bag of tools, but I don't think he's going to be able to put up with the striking that Jim Miller's going to put on tonight.
I agree. And another point, just to, I don't want to throw salt in the wound, but Jim Miller almost thrives when you get in that phone booth size fight. When you take it to the ground and you keep it in the guard, or you're standing toe to toe, that's where Jim Miller thrives, man. So if Oliveira tries to get too cocky, I think that could be the end of him. That could be what causes him to open up and get eaten.
Yep. That's exactly it. Because Jim Miller reminds me of, what the fuck was his name? He's not fighting. He reminds me of Chris Lieben when it comes to that phone booth fighting.
Yeah,
if he gets in trouble, he'll just fucking go. Fuck it.
Yeah.
He does have a tendency to throw caution to the wind sometimes, which, you know what, if you're in trouble, you do that, but he always thrived in those type of situations. I mean, Chris Lieben did the same thing when he was fighting.
Damn right.
So, just looking at it like that there, and I'm going to go ahead and say it. Charles, my apologies for thinking you were Alex Oliveira. Get that out of the fucking way and keep moving on. I'm losing my mind today. Probably because I'm still sick, but that's all right. I'm not going to chalk it up. I just fucked up. We'll call it that. I'll eat my fucking shoe today.
That's all right. We'll just move right along. We'll just disregard it. So the next one coming right up behind here, this one, in my opinion, is the sleeper fight on this card. Everybody knows Lee versus Iaquinta is going to be crazy, so we'll talk about that in a second. The co-main event is pretty crazy unto itself, but this one is the one that I feel that most people are sleeping on this card. This is Rob Font, who is no slouch, versus Sergio Pettis, coming back up to 135 now that 125 is getting wiped out. Now, Rob Font is nothing to walk past. The dude is dangerous everywhere. But Sergio, in my opinion, is the Pettis brother destined for true greatness. He was number 2 in the flyweights, arguably next in line for that shot at DJ before Cejudo lucked the fuck out in the sweepstakes of a lifetime. I realistically don't see any chance that Sergio's going back to 135 less than he was at 125, because that cut, even though 10 pounds for a dude his size, that's going to make a lot of difference when it comes to power. And he's already agile is all fucking get out. So you got to take into consideration he fought at 135 and he was no thing to snicker at 135, and then went down another one to 25 and made it almost all the way to the fucking pinnacle at 125. Now he's back to 35 since the 25 division is going. I like Rob Font. I really, really do. But I think Sergio is on a fucking tear right now. Granted, both of these guys are coming off of losses right now, but neither one of them were lopsided losses. We'd call it that. Both of them were easily contendable. You could have seen it going either way in both situations, but I think in this matchup, especially with Font being a little more of the shit talker on the social media, I think it's going to fire him up a little more, especially considering Sergio Pettis is a Milwaukee boy. This is his backyard fight. There's no
Home
chance.
field advantage.
Yeah, there's no chance all his people aren't going to be there screaming and rooting on. So I think that home field advantage combined with he already knows what he's doing and he's coming back to make a statement in the division he left to go try and take over. I think this is going to be a Pettis kind of night.
Yep, I'm right there with you on that one. Rob Font is definitely no slouch, but Sergio has been on such a tear. That one minor setback is not going to make or break him. I mean, for me, the only thing that bums me out, he was so close to that pinnacle at 125. Had Cejudo not pulled the lucky horseshoe out of his ass, that'd be a whole different division, because I think that would have been the fight that would have kept that division on the map.
Yeah.
Because I agree. If DJ would have kept the belt and would have fought Sergio, that would have been a fucking war for the ages. However, it didn't work out that way, so instead we don't have DJ anymore, and we have Ben Askren, which I would love to talk about with you at some point, because fantastic.
He's coming up soon, so we're going to have no choice but to talk about him here soon.
That's it. But no, in all seriousness, I think Sergio's going to take this, and to be honest, if he puts on a dominant performance, he should get the next shot at the strap.
I agree. I think,
granted, with that whole fucking super fight, look, I'm going to call the UFC out on this one right now. Cejudo Dillashaw is not a super fight, in my opinion.
No.
Dillashaw just won the belt. The guy who he won it from, Cody Garbrandt, fucking just tanked miserably. Like, just poorly. Because Garbrandt went in there and fucked up the guy who Dillashaw who has not been able to beat.
True.
Which is where MMA math doesn't work.
Right.
Because it is what it is. Garbrandt got fucking annihilated.
Twice. Yes. Not once, but twice. Right.
And you haven't heard his name since.
Yep.
It's like he peaked, he's talking shit, now gone. Just cut from the fucking roster, basically. He's still on the roster, he's still in the rankings, but
he's taking some time off.
Yeah. To be honest, I think Sergio Pettis is that guy who goes in there, cleans fucking house. Don't get me wrong, his brother Anthony was at the pinnacle at one point. He's also one of those guys that he's that fighter where he's in the middle of his career and it can go either way for him. He's still got the tools.
Oh, yeah.
But he just hasn't been able to string them together. But this ain't about Anthony. This is about Sergio. He's going to win this fight in dominant fucking fashion. Sorry, Rob Font. Fortunately, I'm going to go ahead and say it. This is one of the few times that I believe that those rankings do run true on this fight. That Sergio walks away with this with relative ease. And I say relative because Rob Font's not a slouch. He's going to come in there and bang. But I just don't see him getting it done.
I very much agree. And I agree with you 100% about the super fight. And that was exactly what I was just thinking when you said that, is that realistically, if Sergio comes in here and he cleans Font's clock and does a dominant at-home performance and then, doesn't come out like an asshole on the microphone afterwards, comes out, remains composed like he generally does, after this super fight nonsense is over, I realistically think if this win comes through, that puts Pettis at the top of the list. There's not really anybody else that you can think of in the 135 division that's going to be ahead of him. Now, granted, Cruz versus Lineker has officially been made. I don't really think
it was nixed too. Cruz got injured
already.
Yeah, he put out on Instagram the other day a really long, heartfelt apology to Lineker for not having the chance to fight him. So that was nixed. I saw it yesterday.
I didn't even see that. See, well, and then that just goes even more to the point that you were just making here. Cruz was the man to beat. And then Garbrandt came in and made him look like straight trash. And then turned around and TJ just beat the living dog shit out of Garbrandt, not once, but twice. And not just beat the shit out of him, but outclassed him, outstyled him, out-endured him, and then outmaneuvered him to make him look foolish twice in a row. And he hasn't even been talked about since then. With Cruz and Lineker now getting nicks, Cruz was the only one that I could think of. If he came through and fucked Lineker up good and showed that he, learned from that Garbrandt fight, he would have been the only other name that I could say would be in contention. But now if he's hurt again, I love Dominic Cruz. He's one of the guys that really helped get me into MMA because of just Dominic Cruz-ness that he possesses. But at this point in his fucking career, every time the guy sneezes, he breaks 3 bones and pulls 2 fucking ligaments. He's another one of those. You're great, dude. You had a fucking epic run. He's a brilliant commentator. He's an intelligent man. But I think at this point, your body's giving you a fucking message. It's time to stop trying to beat people up for a living.
I don't think it's that. I think it's the way that he's training, to be honest. Because you know what? If you're getting injured in training, there's a big problem.
Yeah, you're going too fucking hard.
It's not going too hard. I think part of that is the camp that you're training with is not paying attention to you. You're not paying attention to your body. Because your body's going to tell you when something's fucking wrong. I get it. You're a fighter. You want to push through shit. But there's also that point where you got to start paying attention. If your career is making money by going and beating people up, you really should pay more attention to your body. Even if it's something minor, get it checked. That's why they have access to fucking the greatest doctors in the world, the greatest physical therapists, the greatest chiropractors, whatever it is. You have access to all of that. Take that access that you have and use it. Don't be a dumbass. And yes, you're an intelligent man, but at this point, if you got injured while training for this, dumb ass.
Yeah, because that fight was official for, if he's already out, it was official for less than 2 weeks.
Yep.
A week and change, that fight was official, and it's already scrapped because he hurt himself so bad that this far out it's nixed, which means it's not a small injury because they're still months away from the fight.
Yeah, he had I think it was some sort of broken bone, if I remember correctly, from what the one article said. But I did go and read his Instagram post. I will give him credit. Even without getting a chance to fight, that man, that was one of the most gracious things I've seen another fighter say to a fighter that they're going to go in there and fucking duel it out with. Right? Not to mention, you know what, even if Dominic Cruz quits fighting, lays it up, I'd be perfectly happy because he is one of the best commentators that there are out there. Just watching the UFC after shows with him.
Oh, yeah.
Breaking down, he's fantastic. He works so well at it. And then when he's calling a fight.
Oh, yeah. His on-the-spot fight IQ is unfucking believable. The shit that he can see as it's happening and as it's developing that other people don't even realize.
And there's, to be honest, I get nervous when I think about, let's say, because 20 years from now, some of these guys might not be able to still commentate.
Yep.
I get worried about who's that next person that's going to be able to step up and do the same things that the current commentators we do have are. I mean, look at Joe Rogan. Nobody's going to light a candle to that man, period.
Right.
There's a reason why he's been with the company for so long. It took him a little while to get where he's at with it. But his fight IQ is fucking amazing for a guy that doesn't fight.
Right. Well, and to that point, the reason that he's only doing U.S. pay-per-view matches for the UFC now is because he finally got his way and brought in his favorite commentator, Jimmy Smith, whose fight IQ is also off the fucking charts and is a wonderful commentator unto himself. He brought Jimmy Smith in, but at the same time, you almost have to look at that as he's essentially training his replacement.
Yep, but although Jimmy Smith has been at it for a long fucking time too.
Yes, he has.
What I want to see is, I would love to have guys like that being able to, yes, find a replacement for them, mold them into the right kind of commentator, so that way when they're ready to retire, that next person is fucking ready to go. But And then again, that's probably not going to happen. I mean, I'm still bummed that fucking Brian Stan's not commentating anymore because I loved Brian Stan too.
Likewise, and
But you know what? That man hung it up when he was ready, which was fucking even better.
that's what I was gonna say. It almost not like it's a little bittersweet in my opinion. It sucks that we don't get Stan anymore, but at the same time, he's a perfect example of a man who was intelligent enough to know I've got to stop doing everything that I'm doing right now because it's not getting me where I need to be with what I have to work with. And he stepped away beautifully and respectfully.
Yep, and even when he hung his gloves up too. No, don't get me wrong. I wanted to see him keep fighting, but he just he knew that he was no longer at the right level for the people that were starting to come through the ranks. Yep. So he's like, you know what? It's not worth my health or the hardship that it's going to put on my family because he's a fucking family man, dude. Yep. Like,
he saw longevity issues coming.
Yeah, he did, and that's why he stepped back and went into the commentating portion of it, the pre-fight analytics, the post-fight analytics, all of that. And then he realized, nope, this isn't where I want to be. I want family time because I've been away from it between training and commentating. So I'm just going to completely bow myself out, which I give the man hats off to. I hope he's doing fan-fucking-tastic. Would I love to see him come back around again if he gets the itch? Yeah. Maybe not to fight, but definitely to commentate.
Yeah, absolutely. Sitting at the desk, not standing in the ring. Okay. So, with that down, that brings us to this evening's co-main event of the evening. The one, the only, the coming off a win with momentum under his belt again, Edson Barboza versus his Kiwi counterpart, Dan the Hangman Hooker. Now, Edson Barboza, aside from, and I know it sounds a little cliche, but I give him a full wipe pass on both the Khabib fight and the Kevin Lee fight. The reason being is that he never should have been in either one of those fucking fights to begin with. They put a pure striker, martial art, jiu-jitsu-ish fighter against a 100% wrestler, grappler. It's destined to be a bad matchup, and we've seen it 1,000 fucking times in the octagon now. You can't take someone who's not a wrestler and put him against the highest level of wrestler. But this isn't one of those. This is a beautiful style versus style matchup. This is Edson, the most dangerous legs in the fucking game, Barboza, versus Dan, Stylebender's training partner, and one hell of a fucking striker himself, Hooker. Now, granted, training with Stylebender hasn't quite gotten him to the same level as Barboza, in my opinion, but I'm not going to disregard Hooker in any sense of the imagination. The man has a resume for a fucking reason. They are at the almost exact same number of fights, so the experience level isn't what separates them, in my opinion. It's just the talent level. Now, that's not to say that Hooker doesn't have talent. He just hasn't developed to that same level that I feel Barboza has. And now Barboza has left Brazil. He moved up to Florida. He's in the USA permanently now, so he's got that good weather and he's got that good training around him to help keep him in the shape that he was in when people first started seeing those holy shit kicks that Barboza is able to pull off.
Sorry, Terry Adam.
That being said, though, Dan Hooker is literally the eat shit, sleep, and breathe training partner for Israel Adesanya, the Stylebender. And watching the training footage, just the way that they play around while they're training and they push each other and they feed off each other's energy so well, Dan Hooker is definitely got a very, very promising future in the UFC. But I don't think tonight is the night that he makes that future really start to pop. I think tonight, in my opinion, is the return of the Edson Barboza that all of us hardcore fans know and love and we want to see back. I think tonight Barboza gets it done. Submission in the late third round.
Ooh. You don't think it's going to come with a knockout via one of those gnarly fucking kicks?
I don't. And I think I think the kicks are going to be there. I think we're going to see, maybe not initially, but I think once the fight starts to come through, I think those kicks are going to come back and we're all going to be cheering and yelling. But I think what's going to happen is I think Hooker is going to get greedy because he's got a lot to prove here, and he's definitely the underdog coming in. I think Hooker's going to get sloppy, and he's going to come in angry, maybe a little flustered, maybe a little off his game plan, and I think Barboza is going to fucking hook him up, and I think he's going to tap him out.
I don't know. I think this is going to be a stand-up war, to be honest. And the reason for that is we already know Edson can do it standing.
Hell yeah.
He can turn it into a war any day standing. However, he's graceful enough to manage to avoid damage most of the time. Dan Hooker on the other side of this, he said, look who his fucking training partner is. He knows that if he can hang with him during training, he can hang with fucking anybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't think that he's going to come in there off kilter. This man eats, sleeps, breathes, dreams MMA. For Christ's sakes, he made his own gym.
Yep.
Trains out of his own gym.
Yep.
He doesn't have fucking other people. He's not going to other gyms. He's not going to American Top Team or the Black Zillions or anything like that. He's on his fucking gym because he loves MMA that much. That was, if you watch any of the fight lead-up stuff, he even says it in there. That's why I did this, is because I love it. Not because I know it's a long-term fucking way out. No, this is something he loves. That's why he's put it together. He's making a hell of a run and a hell of a name for himself. Yeah, to be honest, I think he's a little underrated. I don't think people are giving him enough credit yet. However, I'm still going to be on your side with this one. I think Edson Barboza gets it done. But I don't think it's going to be via fucking tap up or via tap. I think he's going to get it done with kicks of some sort. I don't know whether it's going to be some gnarly fucking leg kicks that'll get it done, or if he's going to catch him with a fucking stylish body kick, or a la fucking Terry Adam fucking spinning back kick, you know? Fucking some sort of fucking, maybe he'll get him with a crescent kick or something that we don't see too fucking often, you know? But his kicks are fucking out of control. He's one of those fighters. I'm just saying. But I think he'll get it done that way. The only way Dan Hooker wins this fight, in my opinion, is third round decision. And that's saying he's got to do some work. I don't think he'll be able to finish Barboza.
I can definitely see that. I can agree with that. If it goes the distance, just because of the way that they fight, I can definitely see Hooker taking it in a decision status because and I don't want to necessarily pigeonhole him to the full degree, but his style, at least at this point in his development, definitely seems a little more point fighter than Barboza's does. But that being said, I've been saying it for a hot minute now. Israel Adesanya is the fucking truth. That dude is one of the most potential-filled fighters, in my opinion, the UFC has ever had the fucking luck of getting on their roster. And if he is going day for day, par for par, keeping track with Israel Adesanya, I think Dan Hooker definitely has a bright future. But it just feels like at this point in the game tonight, the steam, in my opinion, is in Barboza's favor. He's going to plow through.
Oh, and Barboza's riding high right now. He's riding the high horse, and as long as he hasn't lost focus because of that, he's going to do fantastic. I mean, to be honest, I'm almost 100% certain Barboza wins this fight. And like I said, I think it's going to come via kick of some sort.
We're definitely going to have to keep an eye on it because we are both Team Barboza for sure on that. But with that said, it's time. The main event of the evening, ladies and gentlemen, the rematch. I don't even know a good enough adjective to describe how excited I am for this rematch. Al Iaquinta, Raging Al, versus Kevin Motown Phenom Lee, part 2. Now, most folks might not understand the importance of this rematch, when Kevin Lee made his UFC debut, it was against none other than Ragin' fucking Al. And Ragin' Al came out, for those who didn't see that fight, and put a work on Kevin Lee right out of the gate. And then Kevin Lee, to his credit, came back in the second round, looked very, very good, and almost finished Ragin' Al with a rear naked choke. Came damn close. There was some panic on Al's face, but he survived. And then round 3 came back, and it was all Ragin' Al. There was no fucking question whose that fight was going to. So Al put a dominant stamp for Kevin Lee's future in the UFC by giving him that big first one. And the problem is if you've been watching the road to the UFC, the lead up to this fight, Kevin Lee is not showing that he has changed. He's saying that he's changed and he's adapted, but if you watch the footage, he really doesn't look like he's changed that much. And the ironic bit about that is that his entire spiel, his momentum, his drive, his shit talking, if you will, building this fight is that he's changed, but Al hasn't. And if you turn around and watch the footage, it's the complete opposite, in my opinion. Al Iaquinta has been one of the only people ever to take Khabib 5 rounds. He's one of the only people ever to be able to take Khabib's shots and push him off and keep fighting. To take Khabib getting put down. Khabib put him on his ass a couple times, and Al popped right the fuck back up. And you could see that it was visibly frustrating Khabib because he was putting his work in, and Al just kept standing back up. Lee is nowhere near the wrestler that Khabib is. He's nowhere near the striker that Al is. So when this comes back for the rematch, in my opinion, this is a case of Kevin Lee talking like he's different and Ragin' Al being very humble and coming to show that he's different. In my opinion, this is Ragin' Al KO middle of the second round.
You know, I like where your head's at. And I also want to add to that Ragin' Al right here. He took that fight with Khabib on not 1 day's notice, 20 hours notice. Less than 1 day.
He didn't even take a full 24-hour notice. 20 hours he made weight.
And he went in there. He trained for a fucking 3-round fight. He was not training for a 5-round fight. Went the distance.
Yep.
And still looked pretty fucking good, all things considering he didn't train for Khabib. And he did it on such short notice, training for a 3-round fight, not a 5. I'm going to say, him training for a 5-round fight, Kevin Lee, you better have fucking changed, because right now, that's scary for you. You know what? This is one of those places where I'm going to say the UFC has the rankings wrong.
Yep.
Don't get me wrong. Kevin Lee's been on a tear, but it's been the same stuff over and over and over that he's doing. I haven't seen his game evolve.
Yep.
It's just that he's solid in what he does. He's very good at what he does. But Al has evolved, and he's gotten better. Think about this. Up until was it a year and a half ago, Al had basically just been off the radar, not fighting.
Pretty much.
A year and a half, 2 years ago, yeah. He'd basically not been fighting. Why? Because he was focused on selling houses.
Real estate man, that's right.
He's a real estate man. He's also one fucking gnarly fighter. There was an interview with him where he said, when I want to fight, I'll fight. When I don't, I'm not.
Yep.
Right now, he's definitely fucking gamer in it because he's doing some fucking work. I don't know if he's not selling a lot of houses out there in Long Island to all those rich uppity motherfuckers, or if he's just said, you know what, fuck it. I know I'm good enough. And you know what I think really is the tip of his cap? That fight with Khabib. Because you know what? He knows if he can go 5 rounds on 20 hours notice,
yep,
with by far the greatest fucking wrestling fighter there is in the UFC, he can fight anybody and win.
I agree.
And I would almost lay 10-1 odds if he had more time to have trained for that fight, he probably could have beaten Khabib just by the way he was fucking fighting.
Oh yeah, I'd be willing to bet if he even had, I'd give him a week, give him a solid week with a 20-hour notice that he took that fight on and still almost had him.
Yeah.
And I bet Al could have probably taken that 155 belt.
Oh yeah, because he touched him quite a few fucking times, and if he'd have had more time to train for that specific style of fighting, he would have worked him. Kevin Lee,
That would have changed the face of the 155 division really hugely too.
yep. And I'm right there with you on this one. I'm gonna say it is gonna be Ray Janelle is going to definitely take the W. I don't know about second round. I think more than likely third round because I think Kevin Lee will still have enough of a gas tank to where it'll take him to the third round to fucking put him away. But Kevin Lee, I'm sorry, you have not evolved. You've been the same fucking fighter you've been. You've just gotten a lot better at your basics. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with being better at the basics and having that solid foundation. But you haven't added anything to your game that is fucking shown anything in your last 3 fights, at least. And it's just not. It's not looking good for you. I'm saying Ray Janelle is going to do this in dominant fashion. And what I would like to see is if he does get a nice dominant win here, put him at number 2, number 1 fucking contender spot. Because you know what? The dude fucking deserves it. Or you know what? How about, even if they don't want to, because Edson Barboza is still fucking ranked ahead of you, Edson's going to win his fight tonight. We know that. Al's going to win. We know that. Make those 2 fight. Winner of that fight gets fucking title shot.
Now that would definitely be an interesting matchup. I would definitely be down to see that fight because I don't think that's another one of those. You put Al and Barboza in the cage together, there's no way there's not going to be fireworks from that one.
Exactly. But, you know,
that could definitely be an interesting matchup.
There's going to be some crazy shit that happens there, especially when you have 2 lightweights on the fucking. You got 3 fucking lightweight fights on the main card. 2 that are potential, if they win, potential candidates for fucking title shots. However, because Iaquinta is ranked lower than Barboza and Kevin Lee, when he wins tonight and Barboza wins, I see that as that's the match to make before they get the title fight. Whoever wins that match gets it.
I can definitely see that. And it does really make sense in this fucking crazy 2018, almost 2019 fucking landscape of the UFC where rankings realistically don't mean shit if you can't move the fucking pay-per-view needle. You're talking about guys that are going to bring the fucking ruckus either way. I don't see that as a bad matchup at all.
Well, no, and you know what? Al can move the needle. When he's ready, he'll move the fucking needle. Guaranteed. You know why? He's got that New Yorker attitude to him. Yeah. That New Yorker, that part of New York attitude. That right there, all he's got to do is start talking. That'll move the fucking needle. If you make that fight between Barboza and Iaquinta in Madison Square Garden in New York, fucking guaranteed every New Yorker and their brother is going to be fighting for fucking tickets for that.
Yeah, no shit. Yeah, that would definitely be an interesting way to take the what we're calling is going to be the end game results from tonight and definitely put an implementation into what could be coming up going forward here.
Something gnarly, that's for sure. I mean, that's all going to be told on how this plays out this evening. I'm pretty sure we've got it right. But beside that, I mean, stranger shit's happen. I mean, everybody that's on the card tonight has a puncher's chance, except for Rob Font. I'm sorry, Rob Font, you don't tonight. I'm sorry. Sergio Pettis, he is the surging Pettis brother.
Fuck yeah.
For a fight card on Fox, though, it's a very solid fucking card. I mean,
hell yeah! For the last UFC on Fox. Well, and to that point, one of the reasons that we've mentioned several times before when we've talked about it, the reason that people like us love MMA so much is that while we're sitting here and we're talking shit and we're breaking it down to the best of our abilities and we're making guesses, there's no fucking certainty in the fight game. Anyone can have a bad night off of fucking random butterfly wing flapping chance. So we could be 100% right. We could be 100% fucking backwards from the way it goes. But that's the wonderful thing about the fight game, is that there's no guarantees. Anything can happen at any point in time for no reason whatsoever.
That's exactly right. And that's why I love it so fucking much, because as much as I have the idea, I think I know what's going to happen, I never do. Like, my thoughts on fucking Max Holloway and T-City was right, but I was wrong too, because I knew it was going to be, if Max got a hold of him on the feet, it was fucked, and if T-City got him on the ground, he was fucked.
Yep.
So it was either way, and Max lit him up like a Christmas tree. That's my favorite thing about the fight game, is you can pick out the certain points in certain fighters and know if they manage this skill of theirs really well, that other fighter is screwed. However, if this other fighter manages this portion or is able to stunt them, it's just fantastic. Gotta love the fight game. It's fucking awesome.
Absolutely. And exactly like you said, I am not too proud to admit I was 100% wrong. I was one of the very vocal, very public doubters of Max based on his recent performance, based on his in and out of the octagon performance recently. I was very vocal and very public and having zero faith in Max. I love the tear that Ortega has been on. I watch him in the ring. I watch his shenanigans out of the ring. I watch his training shit. I watch his charity work. There was zero doubt in my mind that Ortega was going to come in there and he was going to take the fucking belt away from Max. And I was 100% wrong. Max came in there on point, on weight, and he made Ortega look like a fucking rookie. He pieced him up from the start till the doctors said stop.
You know,
The beautiful thing about the fight game is that even the betting odds in Vegas had Holloway the fucking underdog coming into his title defense. Vegas even thought that Ortega had this, and we were all very fucking wrong. And that's one of the beautiful things about this fight game, is that no matter how certain you think you are about how a fight outcome is going to end, you can always be 100% wrong with no reason for it whatsoever.
that's it. To that point of that doctor stoppage, I'm glad they stopped that fight.
Oh, yeah.
Because you know what? Ortega is such a gamer that he would have went out there and fucking finished that fight.
Well, did you see his Instagram post after the fight? He made an actual post as a couple hours, obviously, after they did the initial doctor's checks and shit. But he said himself he 100% agrees with the doctor stoppage. And in a way, he's glad that the doctor stopped it, because he was ready to die in that octagon to take that fucking belt home. And the doctor's what kept him alive, because he would have went out on his fucking shield.
Yep.
Saw what 4 rounds of Max did to him. There's no reason to think at this point round 5 wouldn't have been the same.
And you know what? I bet you Henner would have asked him, do you want me? He probably asked him before the doctors walked in there, do you want me to stop it? And he probably looked at him and told him fucking no.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Because that's the kind of guy he is. I mean, look at where he grew up. That dude he was banging from the time he was little.
Yeah, there ain't no bitch in T-City anywhere. But that is all we have got for this evening. This is going to be the final UFC on Fox, not just of 2018, but ever, because as of January 1st, the UFC's deal moves to ESPN. That being said, we still have one more big card coming up for this year, and I'm hoping to get another episode shot in with all the guys if I can, so we can talk about this one, because in my opinion, it is the biggest card of the year. It is the return of John Bones Jones rematch against Alexander Gustafsson, arguably the greatest 205 title fight in history, running it back for the belt at 205 again on the same card as Chris Cyborg versus Amanda Nunes for the 145-pound women's belt. A potential double champ situation for the ladies, and one of the greatest men's title fights running back to potentially be the second greatest men's title fight competition. So we are definitely going to have plenty to talk about to break that one down. But that's all we've got for this one. So TJ, thank you very much for coming along and giving a shit talking session with me here. Tell the folks where they can find you if they're interested in seeing a little more of your beautiful face.
If you're looking to come and see some of this, you can catch me on Wednesday nights on the YouTubes, right here on Golf T Vapes YouTube channel there. Also, you can find me on the Instagram, same handle as well. Get a hold of me. And if you're feeling real giddy and you want to talk to me in person, just email me.
Well, TJ, thank you very much for coming along and giving the rundown with me here. I always appreciate having your opinion. You've always got some great feedback for me here. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to call that all for this evening. I'm going to slap this bitch together and try and get it up on the YouTubes for all you wonderful folks to see ASAP. So from all of us here at the I'm No Joe show, thank you for tuning in. Please keep with us. We are going to get this down one of these days. But that's all we've got for tonight. So remember, you can root for anything. Don't let ignorance stop you. That's all we've got for tonight, folks. Thanks for tuning in.